Welcome back, boys, to the Maxi Canalla Show. I'm Maxi. This is your daily World Cup coverage, and today we're going to be talking about Argentina versus England in the semifinals tomorrow. Today we do have Spain, France, and I talked about that yesterday, but we're going to be trying to understand why Argentina and England mean so much, and it goes beyond football. So, in 1982, Argentina and the United Kingdom fought the Malvinas War. The conflict lasted over 2 months, and its consequences have remained with Argentina for generations. 649 Argentine servicemen were killed. Many of them were young conscripts sent to fight by a military dictatorship. Families lost sons, and veterans returned carrying physical and psychological wounds, and the country was left with the pain of military defeat. But the football rivalry had already begun before the war. In 1962, in the group stage, Argentina and England met for the first time when England won 3-1. 4 years later came the match that created a more bitterness between the two countries on the football field in the 1966 World Cup quarterfinal. England defeated Argentina 1-0. The Argentine captain Antonio Ratin was sent off controversially, and many Argentines believed their team had been robbed. England manager Alf Ramsey later described that the Argentine players were animals, and adding even more hostility to the rivalry. Antonio Ratin, who has died a couple days ago, and that's why Argentina was wearing the black bracelet against Switzerland. But to understand the emotional surrounding around the 1986 match, it's important to understand the Malvinas War and what it meant inside Argentina. So again, in 1982, it was still ruled by the military dictatorship that governed the country since 1976. And around by that point, the regime was facing an economic crisis, and the anger was the public anger was growing and increasing against the party. And the decision to occupy the Malvinas was to make an attempt to rally the country around a cause that had a deep historical meaning to Argentina. So on April the 2nd, Argentine forces landed on the islands, and Britain responded by sending a naval task force across the Atlantic, and the conflict lasted 74 days before Argentina declared surrender on June 14th. And many of the Argentine soldiers were very young. Some of them were only 18, 19 years old and had limited training. And this is what's so upsetting, because they found themselves fighting in a freezing South Atlantic conditions, because the Malvinas Islands are at the very south of Argentina in really cold conditions off the coast. And families were waiting anxiously at home while the country followed every development of the war. And the military defeat accelerated the collapse of the dictatorship as well, and Argentina returned to democracy the following year. But democracy did not take away that or erase the grief of the families and the trauma carried by veterans. And that's what the country Diego Maradona represented in 1986, right? A young democracy that was still processing dictatorship, defeat, and mourning of the war. So when Argentina met England only 4 years after that war in 1986, millions of Argentinians were not simply watching a football match. They were watching their national team face the country associated with one of the most painful chapters in the recent history. And the football victory was clear. A football victory was never going to undo the tragedy of war or bring anybody back, because That's just not, you can't, you know. But for many Argentinians, this was a moment of national pride, right? And a symbolic release, a chance to celebrate their country on the biggest sporting stage. So let's talk about the match. In 1986, only 4 years after the Malvinas War, Argentina faced England again in the World Cup quarterfinals. The players could say it was only a football match, but for millions of Argentinians, it could never feel like an ordinary match, and it never is an ordinary match. This is a special match. This is like a clásico. This is like a Brazil Argentina, but the emotional impact is behind the match is still there. You can separate a football match and what happened, but there's a subconscious feeling at least, and it makes it a bit more special, right? England represented both the country that had eliminated Argentina controversially in 1966 and the country that had defeated Argentina in the war earlier that in those 4 years. And the man who delivered the moment was Diego Armando Maradona. First came the hand of God that was an illegal, a defiant, and a mischievous goal. And then only minutes later came the goal of the century. And it's pure undeniable genius. I watched the whole match, I think twice or three times over now. And that goal, when you watch that goal in a clip by itself, you think, wow, that's a phenomenal goal. But when you watch it in the context of the match, knowing all the history and how tense the game was, in terms of football, because it was pretty clean, not too many fouls, but in terms of football context, that goal left me speechless. That goal left me speechless. I could not believe what I was watching. Even if I knew, even if I watched it already many times before in clips, I just couldn't believe what I was watching in the game. But Maradona defeated England through cunning and then through greatness. Argentina won 2-1 and went on to become the world champions that World Cup. And that became a mythological victory. It became a mythological um, World Cup match, and Diego Armando Maradona was immortalized in that match, and then completely justified in the final. And then the rivalry continued in 1989, or sorry, 1998, when Argentina and England drew 2-2 in the round of 16 before Argentina advanced in penalties. That match was also a battle. That match was a dirty battle. The 1986 was not a dirty battle, but 1998 was. That match was Michael Owen's famous goal and Javier Zanetti's equalizer. And I think it's most famous by that David Beckham red card after his clash with Diego Simeone. Diego Simeone was a character in that match. And then 4 years later, in the 2002 group stage, Beckham scored the only goal from the penalty spot as England won 1-0 against Argentina. And it was a sort of redemption for England here, especially for Beckham, from that 1998 match. And for Argentina, it became part of a disastrous tournament, that ended up in the group stage, which sucked for Argentina. But now, 40 years after Maradona's um, insane performance and 24 years after their last World Cup meeting, Argentina and England are meeting again. But this time, it's not a group stage match or a round of 16 or quarterfinals. This is the first time Argentina and England will find each other in a World Cup semifinal, with the winner advancing directly to the final. And that makes it, I think, probably more important. Probably the most important sporting meeting between the two countries that have ever played. Argentina are the defending world champions, chasing another final, and maybe getting the chance to be back-to-back World Cup winners. This is Lionel Messi. Maybe it's probably his last World Cup. I mean, he's 39. It's probably his last World Cup. Can't ask for anything else from this man. And he's going to be facing England for the first time in his international career. And an entire generation of Argentinians who know 1986 only through stories, photographs, old videos are not going to experience it. This its own chapter of rivalry. So this is going to be my first time watching England versus Argentina um, in a World Cup in my own generation. And knowing all the history behind it and watching the matches, it just makes it feel so special. I think this might be Argentina's most historically important match, at least in the last decade or so. But this isn't a war, right? And it should never be described as a war. Nothing that happens on a football field can be compared with the loss of human life. But football carries, it carries all that emotion and memories and identity. People can identify with the team, and I think that's special. So when Argentina and England walk onto the field, it's gonna be bringing the controversy of 1966 and the pain of the Malvinas War, Maradona's 2 goals in 1986. Probably some of the drama from 1998 and England's revenge in 2002. And this time it's going to be in the World Cup semifinals. So history is important. It explains why the match means so much, but history won't decide tomorrow's semifinal. Let's go into analyze the match and the analytics behind this match in present day. So let's start with Argentina. I think Scaloni needs to make changes. I think that's gonna be. I think it's gonna happen that he's gonna make changes. One thing that I've noticed throughout the knockout stage is that Argentina has looked very tired, and they've had moments where the intensity drops, and they can't find the ball, and but the team is finding ways to win, but it's not dominating opponents the way they did, um, at least back in 2022, 2024 sometimes. So I think the damage, most of the damage that Argentina's suffering is probably on the right side with De Paul and Molina. So I think that's where the changes are going to come. Cuti Romero, Lisandro, and Tagliafico are not going to change. Alexis, McAllister, Enzo Fernandez, and Paredes are not going to come out. I think it's probably De Paul or Molina that's going to be the changes, probably both. And I think Julian is going to stay on. I don't think he's going to change him for Martinez, Lautaro yet. So what I'm thinking is probably some type of maybe Simeone on the right side or Montiel on the right side, and put in, I don't know, Thiago Almada maybe on the right side, or I don't know, even maybe like a Nico Paz or something, or a Colo Barco. I'm not sure who really can get in there. But I feel like this is probably one of DePaul's worst World Cups. It's just really bad. He's not having the same impact. But DePaul, it's always a question mark. Like, he maybe isn't having the best World Cup, but tomorrow he could just get in there and take over the midfield if he wants. So I don't know where the changes are gonna be. But it seems like Scaloni, from what I've read, is going to definitely make some changes, and probably on that right side. The big problem is that Argentina has now gone through 2 out of the 3 matches were pushed to extra time, and I think that's definitely been hurting Argentina in the physicality. But I think just I don't know why, but it's weighing too much on this physicality. Even though England has played, I think 2 extra times, and they seem to be a bit more physically well rounded. So Argentina come from beating Switzerland 3-1. But Argentina suffered a lot. It was 1-1 up until Embolo dives and gets a double yellow, get sent off and that changed the match, then Argentina could handle the ball a bit more because Switzerland would park the bus a bit. But before that, they were just running cones around us, really. It was bad for Argentina that we couldn't get the ball off them. We couldn't handle possession. We couldn't put two passes together. And Argentina has suffered a lot during that Switzerland match, which was a bit of a surprise. I knew Switzerland was a very good team. I've watched a couple of their matches, but I didn't expect Argentina to just completely give them control of possession, and that's where they hurt us the most. And that was extremely worrying to see because Argentina is a team that handles the ball and suffers when they don't. Um, so I think Argentina needs to take control of the ball again against England. Find Messi between the lines. I think Julian is going to be extremely important in pressing, of course, and also his movement. He needs to run around a lot. If we can find quick combinations around the box, that would be great. It depends how England is going to defend. If they defend parking the bus, then Argentina is going to be facing the same problems that they faced throughout the whole World Cup, where teams just congest the outside and middle of the box with 5, 6 players, and it's impossible to get those little touches that Argentina is so good at in the box. So it's going to have to go to the extremities, and then in the extremities, that's where Argentina suffers. So that's where England can get an advantage off on Argentina's weaknesses. But Enzo, McAllister, and DePaul or Paredes, whoever's going to be playing in the middle, they need to really start playing better because in the whole World Cup, Argentina has been weak in the midfield, and this is probably the most important game where the midfield needs to step up. And I think it's possible because we've been playing teams that really have tried to counter tactic Argentina by closing up the midfield, but um, I think England is probably going to play more spread out and probably try to attack a lot more and hold possession. And I think it's going to be a more of a boxing match metaphor, um, attack versus attack, really. And midfield is probably going to run the game in this game. So, talking about England, let's. I don't. I think England has changed the teams lineups every game, so I can't understand what Tuchel's gonna do. But he's been doing good so far. I think Gordon is definitely gonna start on the left, and that's gonna be a big issue for Argentina. Like I said, the right side, Molina and De Paul is gonna probably be that change to adjust for Gordon, who is a very fast winger, very good, sneaky, can get around you. Gordon winger. Um, the fullbacks are probably going to be speedy fullbacks because England understands that Argentina suffers on the wing, so that's probably what they're gonna try to emphasize on. And Bellingham is going to be a huge factor, right? If Bellingham has a good game, which he's been having a insane World Cup, um, if Bellingham can be fit, play well in the midfield, and take over, then Argentina is going to suffer a lot. And that's why I say Argentina's midfield, both defensively and with the ball, is going to have to step up humongously. So that's where England has a bit of a more of an advantage. They have more depth, more pace, a bigger bench, the physical advantage apparently because Argentina can't get it together in the physical department. I feel like even on the left side for Argentina, so England's right side, Saka is gonna be having a one-on-one with Taliafico a lot of the time, and it's gonna be important to defend that. Like I said, probably England has a lot of wingers, good wingers, fast wingers, and that's what's gonna make a very difficult game for Argentina. Bellingham late runs into the box after using the wings is going to be extremely important. Kane dropping deep as well. He has a wonderful foot, really good technique, and he's probably going to be very dangerous. So this is what I'm saying. The midfield is going to be super important. Shutting down Bellingham, shutting down Rice, shutting down Kane dropping deep is going to be super important before they can get to the wings. And if they get to the wings, then double man on them, and that's going to be important too for Argentina. But England come off facing Norway in extra time as well, so that's gonna weigh on them a bit. And really, I don't think England has been having their best football either, right? We've seen England have iffy performances in group stages against Ghana. They probably should have lost against Congo, but Harry Kane pulled out magic, right? Mexico was probably their best game. I think they had a really good game, although Mexico was probably dominating them for around 36 minutes in the first half before Bellingham scores those two goals in like 99 seconds, which was insane, completely turning over the match. But Mexico kept going hard against them, and they dominated most of the match. And then we also see England coming off the Norway win 2-1 in extra time. I think in 90 minutes, England probably should have lost that match. They actually gave over possession to Norway in the end of the first half, starting in the second half and ending in the second half as well. They probably were the more dangerous team, and England, I think, probably should have lost for how bad they were playing. But they, at the end of the day, they pulled out the victory by buckling down and winning no matter what. And I think that's an important win for England. Although both teams, Argentina and England, haven't been playing their best football, and that was apparent, especially in their last two games. So this is going to be probably a very even match. It's very historical. It's very emotional, and everything around this match is set to be um, just insane. For me, it's extremely nerve wracking. This match, my God, I can't believe how historical this match is going to be. Argentina versus England in the semifinals, 2026. All the storylines around it. Messi's last World Cup. Yeah, this is an insane match. It's probably one of Argentina's biggest matches ever, and we're contemporary to see it happen. So, boys, this is just something that we have to enjoy, something that we have to suffer, and it's gonna be phenomenal to watch this history being made. Um, Argentina needs to win no matter what. Argentina needs to win no matter what. Okay, I don't know what's gonna happen, but history gives us the story, and football writes the ending. And tomorrow we're gonna find out what happens. So, boys, thank you for listening to the Maxi Canalla Show. I'll see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the football. And remember, Aguante Central. Aguante Argentina. Aguante USA. See you guys tomorrow.